to discuss Barcelona, Manny's team. They have officially appointed Hansi Flick as manager. He said this is the direction they wanted to go. He wanted them to go last week, changing up to tradition of Barcelona Football Club. So I think we should start off with him. Manny, what are your thoughts on this move?
Yeah, I think instead of the other options to go with Hansi Flick, I was a fan of it. There was some Thomas Tuchel talks in there, maybe some Rafa Marcus ones as well. But again, those didn't really sit well with me, quite honestly. I think Thomas Tuchel, yeah, it would have been different, but it didn't sit well with how the season went with Bayern. Yeah, they almost made it to the Champions League final, but that wasn't really the direction I would have thought that was appropriate for them. And even with Rafa Marquez, again, like you mentioned, I said that pretty much the same style there, former player, being the coach of Barcelona. It was going to be the same story, I feel like. So now you bring in a guy that's very different. And I think it's funny how they bring in a guy that's very different to their style, and people raise the question now of doing it. But if they would have hired somebody that came from their system to play the same style, they would have questioned even that and say that they're just doing the same thing. So it is funny how it just works in, I guess, against them in either direction. But overall, I think it's a good choice to go with Flick. You know, he won a lot of trophies with Bayern. Barca would know. They beat him 8-2 in the Champions League. So they're very familiar with him and how he played in that game. And I think it's a good hire to change it up a little bit. He's a proven winner, and hopefully he just continues it on at Barca.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, so I know I was looking at some things he had to say, article on ESPN.com. He talked about how, like, his philosophy with Barcelona is kind of similar, really attacking the football. He said that's something that he loves. So kind of bringing that over. And it seems like he's really embracing this opportunity. And I guess the other thing I did see too is he was fired from the German national team following the exit at the 2022 World Cup, and they experienced some poor results in that tournament. So is there any kind of concerns that you guys may have with that? Will that rear its ugly head here, or is that something that we could kind of push to the side and leave that in the past?
I think yes, maybe there might be a little bit room of concern based on, the fact that they were getting outplayed by teams that they had more talent than, and that was just not in the World Cup. That was also in the friendlies after that ended up leading to his firing. But at the same time, club football and international football is totally different. You have much more time in club football to implement your style and tactics and all that. And what is something Barcelona fans can hold on to is the fact that the last time he was managing club football, he was very, very successful with Bayern. So that's the thing. My thing that I would and it is a different style. Hansi Flick compared to the some of the Barcelona managers in the past. Ever since I remember Barcelona always had the roots of the Johan Cruyff football, of possession-oriented, tiki-taka style of play. They kind of did that almost before the Spanish national team even was able to adopt that within their team. That led to the greatest national team of all time, in my opinion. They've always had that style of play, very possession-oriented. That's what Xavi Alonso he does. He plays similar. He would have fit the mold of that kind of Barcelona manager, but he'll never manage Barcelona because he's a Real Madrid. He's a Madrista. But Hansi Flick, yes, he plays attacking football. We're not there. Barcelona are not going all the way, 360. This is not a defensive style of football like a Conte coming in would do, or a Jose Mourinho. It's still attacking football, but it's the way that they attack is different. Spain, Spanish in general, Barcelona, they've always relied on the creativity of their midfielders, of like Xavi and Iniesta, and with this style of play, with Hansi Flick came in, which was really started with Ralf Ragnick, and then we saw Jurgen Klopp do it famously at Liverpool. They don't really. The main creativity is winning the ball high up the field with pressing, and that being your form, and then being close to the goal, that being your form of creativity, and that's kind of the shift that Barcelona is kind of make here, and I think it's very very interesting to see Barcelona play that kind of style. Manny, what's your thoughts?
No, yeah, you make a good point, both of you. Just on the way that this could sort of change it up a little bit. Yeah, it's like you mentioned, Kenneth. It is attacking football, and I think a lot of times the problem where you would see with Barcelona and in some of their games is that I feel like they always worried about making it look nice rather than getting the win and getting the results that really just matter in the end. Because a lot of times if you watch some of those games, it might seem a little boring because they're just passing the ball horizontally back and forth, trying to break down a defense. And I think a lot of times they're just trying to overdo it too much rather than, I don't know, maybe shooting from further out or just being more direct with it and getting results that way. They focused on a little bit just making it look nice and winning, which is a hard thing to do. Obviously, it worked in the past, but now they haven't really adapted like all these other teams have, and I think that was really the biggest problem. And hopefully, with Hansi Flick, they could sort of adapt it a little bit, and he does play a similar style with possession, and hopefully, he just makes it a little bit more direct because you are competing now with Real Madrid, and if they do get Mbappe, that's a very, very tough challenge for not just Barcelona and Spain, but for everybody in Europe. So you have the challenge of competing with them, and if you don't get the results, it's going to be very heavy and very loud in Barcelona for Hansi Flick and the rest of the team. If Real Madrid just keeps winning, you guys are still struggling.
Yeah, and even with changing it up, this doesn't magically fix the financial issues that Barcelona has, and which still prevents them from being able to compete with Real Madrid or the top teams in the Champions League. That's something I just wanted to throw out there. It doesn't prevent that.
Now, where does their former coach now end up, or is he? What's his situation?
Well, I feel like he got a little bit of a raw deal. I think what he was able to do last year in winning La Liga was a very good accomplishment in my opinion. And this season he goes on a run where they play some good football. They end up getting eliminated in the Champions League because of a red card. But this they were kind of getting it back into the right direction. And then he makes a comment here and it just boom, just like that. Now he's fired again. And that's also a main thing, a concern I have with Barcelona is at the top. If you have this sort of emotional roller coaster running this operation of, trying to beg someone to come back and be the manager of a team to within a span of 2 weeks, wanting to fire him because of comments that he made, which was absolutely just the reality of what it is, it makes me a little concerned. Is this the guy at the top to be able to run this team in financial hardship right now? Is he the guy that can bring this team back to their glory days? I'd be very, very concerned as a Barcelona fan.
That's a good question you bring up. That has been really the some of the, I guess, the spotlight has been pointed that way towards their president Joan Laporta. But again, if you look at the contract, it is like a 2-year deal, so it kind of gives him the opportunity again to not stick with Hansi Flick too often if this does get not the way that he hopes it to happen. But again, back to what Kenneth was saying with Xavi now, where he goes, it'll be interesting because of just he went to the top so quickly. He was managing a team that he played for in Saudi, I believe, and now he got really just skyrocketed into one of the top clubs in Europe. To see where he goes now, I'm pretty sure it's probably only going to be downward now compared to the level of play.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, like where he goes, it's going to be still pretty tricky too because of how the situation ended up and the relationship with Joan Laporta. Like you mentioned, Emran, there, he says some things maybe the president doesn't like. Does that play into a factor with the future club and how they, analyze what it would mean to bring him in if he's too big of a character maybe and how his style fits somewhere else? Is he too tied to playing like Barcelona, or can he adapt his way of playing? I think that'll be interesting, and I would like to see him coach again because, like you said again, he did a remarkable job winning the league in like his first year there with the financial situations that this club has. Competing with Real Madrid, I think that was remarkable. But again, it's always people are always just gonna want more and more results to come your way. Trophies, like you mentioned last episode, Emran, are required at a club like Barcelona, especially competing with Real Madrid. So it was tough. I think it was too early for him, but now he still has a good opportunity. He's still super young to get another chance somewhere else.
Yeah, I think he's proved enough that he's a good manager at least. Now he's not gonna go in and he's not gonna get another top job like some of these top jobs available right now, like Chelsea or something like. Forget about it. He's not gonna create he's not gonna get one of those. I think the biggest opportunity he has is maybe go on a one of the top flight teams in the lower half and help them come up, or I say this, I think this would be a great move, not just for him, but also this team. If they were to happen to, lay the egg at the Euros and Luis de la Fuente would get sacked, I think a good opportunity for him is going into the Spanish national team and revitalize that young core that they have. I think that could be a good move with them, with the style of play. It kind of fits the Spanish mold. Well, this is the end of this segment. I just wanted to thank y'all for being on. So Kenneth and Manny, thank y'all so much.